with a lot of other people, but the message was always, I'm a Hungarian trying to talk to you in rock and roll. And that was, and you know, we did a lot of great things. We did a big concert for, to raise money for victims of Katrina. Raised $150,000. That's a lot of money. We also played at Walter Reed Military Hospital for the soldiers. We played a lot of concerts, only benefit and only trying to send a message in a good way that we understand American culture. Now, fast forward. When I arrived, I also decided that I want to make sure that I figure out the way to get through to the U.S. media. Well, it's very difficult. I don't know how many of you have tried to get yourself in the Washington Post or the New York Times or New York Magazine, but it's very, very difficult. And it's even more difficult to get on one of your late night shows. You know, it's almost impossible. But the day I arrived, I had a long conversation with General Wesley Clark. General Wesley Clark was the commander of NATO forces during the campaign in Kosovo. And he became a good friend of mine because I was the ambassador in Brussels at NATO. Wes Clark said, look, what you have to do is just sit down for a couple of months and figure out what the American people really think. And you have to figure out how they get all these ideas. And you have to not only watch the, you know, these important political commentators, try to see what the mainstream media says. And so that's when I got into these late night shows, Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien, Ellen DeGeneres, which came later. And then finally, someone called me and said, and are you watching Comedy Central, Jon Stewart? And I said, no, who's Jon Stewart? Well, all my students are watching Jon Stewart. So the next thing I know, I start watching Jon Stewart, and there's this funny guy on Jon Stewart, this fake reporter, whose name is Stephen Colbert. So I went to see Jon Stewart. We had a long conversation. By the way, what's the name of my band? The Coalition of the Willing. That's really funny because, okay, now you should know that Lincoln Bloomfield's father is a professor at Harvard University. He coined the phrase. So the reason we chose this, the band was totally split on a rock, by the way, 50-50. So you should know the choice of name was tongue-in-cheek. But anyway, so I called Stephen. I called Stephen Jon Stewart, and we had a long conversation. And of course, I gave him a T-shirt from the band, and he loved it. I have a photograph of Jon Stewart standing with the Coalition of the Willing T-shirt. That's really, I think that's funny. But anyway, I had discovered Stephen Colbert very, very early on. Stephen Colbert was a nobody. He was a funny guy, but he was nowhere near the fame and popularity he has now. He got his show, his own show in late '05. And as soon as he got his show, I sent him a letter. I want to see you, I want to talk to you because I think you're so damn interesting. And I think I was right. We had a meeting set up for the 22nd of June. And as fate has it, President Bush is visiting Budapest on the 22nd of June. Now, I can not write a note to my authorities and say, well, I'm sorry I can't go with the president to Budapest because I have to see Stephen Colbert. But I did write Stephen Colbert a note, and I said, look, I can't go. And a few days later, he comes back with a note to me, come anytime. That summer, the Hungarian authorities launched a campaign to name, an international competition to name the newest bridge across the Danube River. And this guy, Chuck Norris, got, I don't know, he is, you know, he got the big vote. And Tony Curtis, have you heard of Tony Curtis, the actor? Some Like It Hot, okay? He used to be pretty famous, at least when I was a kid. So Tony Curtis calls me, what the hell is this? Why aren't you naming the bridge after me? Why this bastard, Chuck Norris? I said, hey, wait a minute, Tony. It's not being named after anyone yet. Suddenly, Stephen Colbert discovers the bridge for fun. You know, they're screening the world for all kind of funny things. He said, that's it. Let's go international, and let's go electronic, and let's do a voting. So he gets 17 million votes. There are only 10 million Hungarians in the country. So I'm in Budapest, and suddenly my wife is running out of the house screaming, oh, Colbert is on television. And by that time, I had a very, very well-oiled machinery, because it's important that you have a team, you have a structure in place, and when the opportunity is there, you've got to have the people who are able to go after things, figure out how to get in touch real fast. 10 minutes later, from Budapest, I was on the phone with Stephen Colbert, and I said, sir, what are you doing? He said, sir, what am I going to wear for the inauguration of the bridge? I said, Stephen, now, in that millisecond, I had to decide, okay, which way is this going to go? Am I going to look stupid? Am I going to be ridiculous? And that's really what you will have to understand. You will be top students. When you leave this university, you have top grades. Trust me, there are things that will only come with time. And I just want you to know that it is so important that you understand that intuition, that little millisecond when the solution comes to you, comes with good education, good training, and of course, experience. And at that moment, I said to myself, okay, this is it. If I can catch this guy, then I think I have something in my hand no other ambassador will have. So the bottom line is, I said, you know what? I don't know what you're going to wear. I'll check. And can we discuss it when I'm back in the States? And he said, sure, come on my show. That was really it. And when I came back, we started this. I don't know, have you seen the show? Yes. You have seen the show? Well, I think it's funny. And I want to tell you, it was the scariest thing I've ever done. I mean, I'm there, and you have an audience of 350 people. And, you know, he can be rude. He can be really rude. He can, you know, I think big-time politicians and very famous people have burnt themselves totally with Stephen Colbert. He's witty, he's fast, he is just a very, very smart person. And by the way, off-screen, he is the nicest, humblest person that you've ever known. So I go on the show, and I do this little thing, and it was huge. And trust me, if you ask me what is the #1 achievement while I was in the United States politically, was me being able to be on the Colbert Report. I got a call from Madeleine Albright, and you know, we were talking. I said, Madeleine, we just became colleagues. Why? Are you the next foreign minister? No, we were both on the Colbert Report. And that has elevated our status in a weird way through popular culture in the United States. No one else has been able to do that, repeat that. And I say this with some humbleness, you know, some caution, but I just wanted you to know that this is a result of hard work, strong foundations, a daring diplomacy, and a deep belief in being able to do things in a different way. Now, I'll stop here because I could go on and on and on, and I can tell you about the set list and everything, but that's not what is interesting to you. I wanted to frame this so that we can have a good discussion. Don't ever forget, it's all about people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'd like to introduce Jason Scorza, Associate Provost for Global Learning, who will moderate the question and answer. So please.
And by moderate, I mean throw fuel onto the fire whenever possible. Who would like